and good morning. My name is Gibbs and I love writing. Today we're looking at true nature and change. So over the course of your story, no matter what kind of a story you're going to be writing, some kind of change is going to occur with your characters. And their true nature is going to come forward. I'm looking at one of my stories that I've written here. My main character is a person named Venen Yog, and he is a sad individual who used to be a laborer. Then all of a sudden, Heliodine, the princess of another city, just happened to find him and ran into him, drug him out of the city, and brought him on this epic adventure, on this quest. There are assassins chasing her, these huge shadow creatures that are after her for some reason. We find out that her mentor back in the city that she is from is giving her clues. His name is known as D. I don't have that in the lore book, but at least I remember. His name is D. And he sends her notes through letters that just appear in thin air. So I progress the story that way to show what is going on in the background. So the main story is my characters going through the world and trying to get from one place to another. I'm writing a journey type story here. So my character started as a laborer who works for the city of Kelton, and he likes alcohol. He's been drinking lots of alcohol because he's sad, he's alone, and one thing that he wants is to find someone. He wants to find love. Well, how funny is that, that a princess just shows up and starts dragging him around the world? Through the story, they start to like each other. Now they are holding hands, right? My character is bothering her, saying funny things here and there, and we've made it to the point where they are now back at the city. So,
just like Haley predicted, we passed over a few hills, and then, at the top of a particularly large hill, I saw it. The city was massive. It sprawled for what seemed like miles. And if I squinted, I saw a massive towering structure at the center. The palace. She hummed. We made it.
So we finally made it to the city. Now it's time for the culmination of everything to come together. So, first thing we're going to do is, like I mentioned, I've got my backseat driver, D. He's been writing notes throughout this entire series. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out a note. So they just reached the city, and now I need something for him to say that's going to let them know that they need to go to the palace. Because she's already noticed the palace, but now I want to really reinforce that they need to get to the palace because there's something there. And nothing's changed. I still don't know how to spell. Peace. Not that kind of peace. Peace. She reached out and grabbed the parchment. Contagiousness. So I'm trying to make it seem like, oh, this is such a good thing. Oh my gosh, we finally got word from D. We have a letter. We finally have word from D. It's been like, I don't even remember the last time he said anything. But, my alarm. Now I need to write something that is terrible, right? So I'm trying to show that this is a huge deal. Her mentor, the person that taught her magic, how to use all of her spells, is saying, hey, X, Y, and Z. I stepped closer. Alright, now what do we have? I definitely know that it's not going to be good. Let's just do, out of time, the Soulstone Palace. They found me. D. Okay. So I'm trying to make, I think I'm going to change that.
My own eyes went wide at seeing the script of the words on the parchment. His handwriting was immaculate, but I nearly teared up from feeling Haley's aura.
So part of my little world is that everybody has a thing called an aura. Your aura is basically how you, how you're feeling, your emotions. It's a direct connection to your soul. So my main character here has the innate magic of being able to control people's auras, and he can read them really well because Haley has extensive training in this, because she is basically a wizard. She's a ritual magic user, which Dee was her mentor. So she is freaking out because he basically has now said, "Hey, listen, game's up. I'm dead. They found me." Or I should have it say, "He found me." Ooh, now that's going to create more intrigue into what's going on. But I've also mentioned this thing right here, the Soul Stone. Well, I guess we're going to have to dive into that as well. But first, we're talking about Haley's aura. So let's dive a little bit more into that. So Haley's aura, so we're going into deep feelings right now because she's going through a lot of emotions. She just found out basically her mentor is about to die or is dead. We don't know, but he at least was able to give us this little message. And maybe I might even get rid of the out of time. So, the Soulstone. Palace, he found me. D. Rise, rain, tears. What's a good way? So my character likes him, so likes her. So I need a good description that is gonna sound like he's almost giving her a compliment. I don't want to say perfect. What's another word for perfect? Immaculate. Delicate. Streaks of clean lines from her eyes down her delicate features. So over this story, we have my character who initially is basically an alcoholic who's working with his bros, right? At the very beginning, he's working with his team of laborers, right? He loves them. They work together. Then they go hang out at the bar. They drink. He has changed over this whole story into something that is a little bit more than just somebody with the innate power that can control people's emotions and use them for his own well-being. He's now somebody who can help people with their emotions through his magic. So that's what I think I'm going to do right here. Sobbed and held the note close to her chest. How the fuck do you spell clammy? Not clampy. 2 M's? There we go. So, I'm trying to slowly pick apart what I've done up here, right? So now let's go through and evaluate what I've done so far. So, we have all of this.
Stepped closer and wrapped my arms around her. She was cold and her skin clammy. I rested my chin on the top of her head. Haley? After a few moments, she sniffled back her sobbing tears and was able to reply, "Yeah? Venom?" I sighed and lightly kissed her head. "Can I help you?" I paused and hesitated. "I mean, do I have your permission?" She sighed and nodded. Yeah. We need to move on." She wiped away her tears. My arms still folded around her. "It doesn't mean he's dead."
So I'm trying to make it seem like this is a big deal, right? I want to take some time to write about this because this is her mentor. This is somebody who she has had in her life since she was born. This guy has been the court wizard of Greyport, who has served her family, her father, who is the king, who is now dead, her mother. I think her mother is also dead as well. Let me see. I don't even remember. Father's passed away. I'm pretty sure I thought I made the mother die as well, but whatever. This character, Haley, we're kind of like opposites here, right? This whole stream is about character changes and true nature. Me, I started as just some bumbly guy who walks around and does work all day and then drowns himself in his sorrows. Haley, on the other hand, started as an extremely strong, independent person who was a wizard who was looking to go and study with the warlocks up north at the city of Donzavir. But because of all the events that happened, the initial message that Dee sent her, she has gone on this travel, and the whole time this story has been beating her and beating her and beating her and making her feel terrible. I have come in to help her. My character, Venom, has been helping her get through all of this. And now he's going to do that again. Hmm. So I'm trying to show that my magic is working in a diverse, strange way. So my character opens up his aura to her, and then he kind of steals her emotions. And now let's describe that. Holy shit, what the fuck was that? Can't spell. There we go. And now, boom, here is this part, right? I'm feeding off of her emotions, and it makes me stronger, which is kind of weird and backwards how that works. Felt a wave of energy pulse through me as I absorbed her aura's emotions. So now we need to figure this out more, right? I need to go back to this. This is really important, this whole thing, because this is the structure for where we're going to go next. So, she is now coped with the fact that he said this, he found me. Now it's, I need to get this into their mind, right? They haven't acknowledged this part, which is what we're about to do. So we're about to acknowledge what's going on with the soul stone. But first, they're falling in love, so I gotta write a little bit of a moment here as their eyes meet, like one of those cheesy things, because I like that. That's interesting to me. Her eyes met mine for a moment. Force of our souls. Scowl. Hold on. I don't know how to spell that. That's something I gotta look up. Oh, with the W. Duh, idiot. There we go. Here we go. Perfect. Now we've set this up for what we're going to be doing next. So she blinked, her face grew into a scowl. Wait, she pulled up the paper and reread it for a minute, going over and over it. The soulstone. Why did he write about the soulstone? What does that have to... So now we're going to dive into this situation. But I need to go to the bathroom. So, while I'm doing this, I'm going to have Keanu reread a little bit of what's going on here. So I'll have him, oh, come on. Keanu, give me a break, buddy. You piece of poop. Let me see if I can go from the bottom to the top then. Alright, I'll be right back.
Get out of here with that shit. No way. One of the guards snorted. He bent at the waist and wheezed out a laugh. The other guard, standing next to him, smiled and patted his back, half trying to make his friend stop and half making sure the man took in a breath. The commander sighed and turned to the guard, his eyes filled with rage. At the sight of the disgruntled commander, the guard stood at attention, though the one who had blurted out tried, but failed to cover a smile. Well, it does seem far-fetched. The commander rolled his eyes at his men and then looked back at Venon. You alluding to becoming a paladin is enough of a story bender. But the princess, the commander shook his head and stifled a fit of anger. I mean Queen Hailey, falling for you. The commander frowned. Come now, Venon, we are letting you spin a tale of heroics. Not on your part so far, but come now. Have respect, if not for our queen, but your once companion and traveling partner. Venon sat very still for a moment, his aura contained by the metallic collar tightly secured around his neck. You won't be able to tell if I am lying or not, unless you look into my soul. The commander laughed. No, they're not happening. We aren't taking the collar off you. Venon smiled. So you believe at least part of what I am telling you. He sighed. It doesn't get better from here. The commander turned to his men. You two out. I want the next pair of fools to be mutes, so they don't interrupt us. The guards quickly exited the door. Venon was able to get a peek through the door, but he was only able to see a glimpse. He sighed as two humongous orcs stepped in and to each side of the door. The door closed with a bang and dust fell from the ceiling. Venon smiled. Wow, what are you feeding these guys? The commander smiled, but his eyes did not dance with laughter. Go on, murderer. Keep digging your hole. Get to the part where you kill her. Venon frowned. I have done nothing to harm your queen. Nor would I even think to do so. Then continue, or these men will show you what true pain and regret mean. Venon looked from the commander to the two orc soldiers and blinked. The commander took a step back as he read the expression on Venon's face. Tilde, tilde, tilde. After our short, luxurious stay at the cabin, we had no such luck finding a nice place to sleep as we continued through the woods and countryside. The weather was cold and windy. The wind fought us at every step forward we took. The roads would have been far easier to traverse, but the threat of the riders had us hiking through what seemed like frontier country. There were the occasional farm. Most of the land we crossed was wild and untamed by civilization. I spent my day focusing on the task at hand, the grueling tempo taking one step after another, but in my mind, I toyed with the idea of prayer, of becoming, like what Hailey said, a paladin.
So, something that I do in this story is I go from third person to first person in this little text here to help drive the story into different parts, right? This little scene here that I went through is the change from the third act into what I believe is going to be the fourth act of this story. We're going from, we were just walking through the woods, and now here is the show that my character has changed. Right, my character right now, as we're walking through the woods using his powers, is different from the one that is in the in-between text of the chapters, where I'm talking about everything in third person. So, back to what we were writing before, talking about the Soul Stone. Let's review a little bit about the form and everything that I should be looking at. So I want the emotions, the thought, and the action, and then a little bit of dialogue in with what's going on. I definitely have a lot of emotion going on here through the way that everybody's looking, pressing up against me. There's a little bit of emotion. She likes me. The feeling of what's going on. My character is clearly thinking as I go through and do all of these different acts. And then there's a little bit of dialogue. So this is pretty good so far from what I'm seeing. Now we have to... This is the tough part, right? Because I don't want to just do an info dump on the Soulstone as these people are just standing up on the hill. Right? They need to get moving now. Right? We've been standing here for this entire scene. This could be like 2 pages in a book, a page and a half of a book, and they're just standing still. So I'm trying not to do too much of an info dump here. So she squinted down at the city. She turned and squinted out over the city. I mean, I don't see why not. I haven't seen them yet. Them, the shadow creatures that have been hunting us since the second we set foot out of the tavern back in Kelton. So I want to leave a few little hints here and there. Like my characters are walking down the hill, they see the city, this is it, they finally made it. It's been weeks of traveling, and they finally made it. Ooh, but something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel good about this whole situation. Speaking of character change and development, something that I mentioned in that little reading that we just did there, my character is wants. One of the things that he wants is to change. He likes his innate power, but he wants it to develop into something more. And something that is in my world is a thing called a paladin. So if you've played World of Warcraft or anything in the Warcraft universe, you know of the light. The light is a being or a force of nature where if you believe in yourself and you believe that what you are doing is correct, it will grant you power. My character has been working on praying and meditation to try to develop himself into a paladin. So that's part of his journey, his change, and something that I want to reveal as his true nature throughout this whole story. He's developing from just somebody who was a guy going into a bar and drinking with his friends to somebody who defends a princess, falls in love with her, and uses his powers to help get rid of the big bad evil, which we are getting closer and closer to now. So, with that in mind, we're going to move into this next portion, which is we've had a lot of emotion and a lot of thoughts going on. Now we're going to get to more action. So Haley waved at the guards as we approached. I couldn't ruin her moment. So I'm trying to figure out a way why he's not saying anything. I had to say something. So, my character's feeling something. What is Novel AI? Novel AI is a program that you can use to write stories. So you can use this to help you write stories and create works of writing. So there's different parts to Novel AI. This is the lore book where I can write down anything that I want to remember about a character. Right? The cities. This is one of my main characters. Here is me, what I'm writing. Here's my workers that are back in the city. And something that it can do is if I hit the send button, the AI will create the story for me if I want. So the AI is writing right now. Let's see what it said. And it can also read it to you.
The guards greeted her with enthusiasm as we finally reached the gates. Haley returned the greeting and they escorted us in. The first thing I noticed was the city was dead. There wasn't a single person in sight. No horse-drawn carts. No merchant stalls. Nothing. It was a ghost town. I felt like I was walking into a trap. I gripped Haley's hand tightly as we walked down the cobblestone streets. She ignored my unease and continued to walk forward with the guards.
So the AI can write the story with you. Anything that's in blue is something that I've written. So I've written pretty much most of this, but there are a few parts where the AI have written things. It's pretty good. There are different settings that you can go through. So I have my settings to, you can set which AI you want. You can have a different model going. And then you can go into more detail with how you want the AI to write. So I have it set to Galactic Gauntlet right now, because Galactic Gauntlet, I've found, does a really good job of copying what I've already written. It maintains the style of what you're doing. There's a bunch of different dials here that you can change how much you want the AI to write. I always put it up to 400, so then it just gives me as much as possible, because I can always delete it, right? Like, I don't have to keep in the story what the AI just wrote. I kind of like it though, so I might keep it. You can set how random it is, so if you set it up really high, the AI is just going to spit out some crazy shit. Repetition, if the AI keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again, you can reduce this a little bit, so then it's not going to say the same phrase. Like, I have a phrase in my story, creator above, oh creator above. Like, it's almost like somebody saying Jesus Christ, right? But in my world, this is a fantasy fiction world of magic, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. So instead of Jesus Christ, they're saying creator above. So you can change all of these settings, and it can get pretty in-depth for all the things that you want to do. I don't really dive too far into that. I really like this for the lore book and being able to go in and change the story and then have it give me a few ideas here and there. So, the guards greet us. Definitely, definitely. And part of the writing process I have up here, you want in your story a general flow, right? In general, unless you're writing a very specific character like an assassin or somebody who does not have a lot of emotion or feeling, you want those four things. You want emotion, thought, action, and dialogue to make a more balanced story. Now, the AI does not always do that, but here, it didn't have any dialogue. But if I were to hit send again, let's see if it would give me some more dialogue.
Eerie, isn't it?
So,
We walked until we reached the palace, which loomed over the city. Haley was too focused on the palace to notice my grip tightening. She waved to the guards as they opened the large wooden doors of the palace. I stood still and looked up at the tower. My gut feeling was telling me not to enter, but Haley was determined to get inside. I felt her aflare with excitement and joy as she tugged me into the castle. The guards closed the doors behind us, and the darkness enveloped us.
so there's a great example of how the AI isn't perfect, right? I could just keep hitting send and send and send, and it could just keep giving me more and more story, but it's not what I want, right? It's not well balanced. It's not giving me a lot of dialogue, which that's okay, because I can just do this. I don't want to reach the palace yet. The palace is the end goal for this. This entire story that I'm writing is a journey. So what I want to do is go off of this. Feels like a trap, right? The guards greeted her with enthusiasm, but what did they say, right? So I don't really like how the AI is writing this. So I'm going to go back and change it a little bit. And this isn't all that Novel AI can do, right? Part of the settings that you can go through here, you can change the mode. So right now this is the storyteller mode. So what it's doing, because I have the settings the way they are, I can just hit the send button and it will just make more of the story based off of what the AI sees in my lore book and what I've written so far in the story. But you can change it to a text adventure where you can almost have like a Dungeons and Dragons game but by yourself. So I attempt to open the door and then the AI will tell you whether you open it or not and what's going on in that way. Exactly. It is a tool that can help you get through the story. Like, it's giving me lots of ideas on how to get to where I want to go, but it's not exactly what I want, but because I already have a good idea. I always like to go into these, like, I've got tons of stories that I write. I always go into these stories with an idea in mind. Like this one, I mean, if I go all the way back up, I barely had the AI write any of this. Well, only in the white parts is where the AI has been writing this. Like, most of this is just me. Like, I've been scrolling for 20 seconds, right? Yellow is the initial prompt that I put in. I tried a few generations, it didn't work, and then I just started writing. So I want to change what the AI said here. Well, thank you. Thank you for following. I appreciate it. I'm always on pretty much every morning. I love writing. Though I can't spell for shit. So the guards stood stony in their response to her wave. Trepidatious. Nope. Let's use a different word. Something isn't right. So my character is saying, Haley, something isn't right. Something doesn't feel right. Their postures. Still as stone. Oh boy. So as Haley turned, How do I do this? So, I also like to use the AI to
Haley,
read it.
I said with a hesitant
Helps me
voice,
think.
trying to keep my voice down. Something isn't right. She turned, and as her eyes left the guard, I watched as their postures changed. From standing still as stone, to fluid movements. Their sword drawn in an instant. As Haley turned towards me, she...
As she threw up her hand, a wave of energy burst from her palm as a translucent can't spell energy formed. So now, this whole time that this story has been going, my characters have been hunted by these shadow creatures. They have been followed. And I want to... The shadow creatures have always been described as black and inky. Black and purple. Black inky darkness. How about that? Black inky darkness. To show the corruption and darkness that is going through this world and the city. Black inky darkness emerged from the guards' helmets and cracks in their armor. So again, this whole stream is about character change and then true nature. My character, Bolt. Whoop. Got distracted. My character is stumbling back in surprise. So I'm surprised by this and almost stumbled back as the energy was launched at us. Haley rocked back on her feet from the impact. Alright, let's do a little bit of a dive here. So, emotions. Let's evaluate this last little part here. Postures changing in the fluid motions. This is a lot of action that's going on right now. Picked up the change in their auras, so there's thought. Her eyes went wide. So there's kind of an emotion and thought. She threw up a spell, another action. A wave of energy burst from her palm as translucent energy, more action. Inky darkness, more action, stumbled back in surprise, kind of an emotion. Now we're going to get to a little bit of a difficult part. So we're now in battle with this person. Something that my character has done in the past is used his power, because he has the innate power of using people's emotions and auras against them. And he's used that in the past to get him out of difficult situations. But how can he do that in this situation? Before, it was a monster, a creature, that used sound attacks to perform stunning attacks on people, and he used the aura of fear and unease against the creature because it was pretty much like an animal. Right now, there's two almost construct creatures, right? The darkness has taken over them. The corruption of whatever this creature is, or the main bad guy, has taken over these creatures. So I have to look at all the tools that I have going on right now. And this is actually a good point for me to stop. So I always like to stop at spots where I don't really know what to do, but I can always see what the AI would recommend to me. So let's see what the AI says, and then I might let's see. All right, Keanu, give it to me.
She grit her teeth and brought up her other hand, creating a second shield as she braced herself. Her voice trembled as she casted another spell. Aura, protect us. I heard her voice tremble with fear and doubt as a new shield of energy appeared before her, separating the two shields into three. She was growing tired, and these things weren't slowing down. I didn't know what to do. I had no training in magic, fighting, nothing. I wanted to scream out that I couldn't help, but I had to do something.
Actually, pretty good. I actually really like that. I don't know. So she created a second shield. As another bolt of energy. Bolt of energy. Bowl of energy. Get the fuck out of here. One day I'll learn how to type. The other guard, her voice trembled as she cast another spell. Clearly taxing herself with the effort. Multiple spells at once. She's taxing herself. Again, if we look back at this whole story, my characters have been going and going and going and going for weeks. They've been walking and running and fighting for weeks. So she's like trying to cast two spells at once. She's like, oh man. Separating the two shields into three. And I think I'll leave it right there. That's a perfect place to stop. The AI actually did a really great job of taking what I have been doing and then putting it into the story. Orbic, thank you for following. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. My name is Gibbs. I love writing. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Peace.